Hey guys, my name is Jaylen Boone. I'm the 8th UNA USA Youth Observer to the UN, and you are tuned in to the Youth in Action series. This week on Youth in Action, we traveled to our nation's capital for the Nothing But Net Summit, where hundreds of global health champions gathered to celebrate the progress that's been made on malaria. One of those champions was SouKeyna Diouf. SouKeyna is an LA-based model and healthcare advocate. Raised in Senegal, SouKeyna studied biochemistry at Howard University and later went on to volunteer at hospitals in Senegal, treating malaria patients without health insurance. After moving back to the U.S., she set her sights on healthcare reform and is now a UN Global Health Champion for 2020. In addition to her philanthropic endeavors, SouKeyna inspires her fans with her bold and colorful style. She's partnered with brands from Maybelline to Dior and was most recently featured in Vogue Italia. With her ever-growing platform, SouKeyna hopes to spread awareness surrounding healthcare in Africa and empower the next generation of women to make a global impact. I am so glad to welcome onto the show SouKeyna Diouf. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you guys for having me. I'm more than flattered by this. Wow, for us to meet in this city. I'm so excited.
Let me start out by saying this just happened in literally less than 24 hours.
Yes.
I reached out to her on a cold call and she said, of course I'd be down.
Yes.
And so thank you so much.
Yes.
We were just going to get into it, and I want them to learn a little bit more about you.
Okay.
So we are here at Nothing But Nets, but, honestly, you're just an influencer all around. And so I just want you to tell us a little bit more about your upbringing, your story, where you're from, and a little bit about SouKeyna.
Okay, so my name is SouKeyna Diouf. I'm Muslim, I'm Senegalese. I went to school in Senegal. I was born in the United States. I graduated high school in Senegal and decided to come to the United States and attend Howard University here in Washington, D.C. So re-meeting here in D.C. just means a lot to me, and it's really close to home because I spent the last 4 years of my life here. I got involved with Nothing But Nets as someone who has had malaria before, and I just love how passionate the team was. I love everything it stood for, and the fact that it was something that was not just, okay, we're trying to help the people with it. No, we're trying to prevent it. We're trying to create some sort of system, some sort of aid to people in countries in sub-Saharan Africa where malaria is very prominent, or even Asia, South America, the Caribbean, the Middle East, etc., and really implement systems where not only are we preventing it, but having some sort of sustainability in what we're doing in these regions. So that was something that really drew me to the team, and I was just in love with it.
That's awesome. So I know there are a lot of people watching, and this episode is zeroing in on good health and well-being, SDG number 3. And so for those of you that don't know what malaria is,
Yes.
and I know that that's, with all the research around it and all the publicity around it, a lot of people will hear malaria and not exactly know what it is. So can you tell some of the people watching about what malaria is and sort of what Nothing But Nets is doing to try to, tackle that?
So malaria is a disease that's affecting over half of the world's population. Oftentimes, especially here in the Western world, people will hear malaria and almost think, oh my gosh, automatic death. It doesn't have to be the case. Malaria is not only preventable, but it's also very treatable. As I said, I've had it before, and in a place like Senegal or other countries in sub-Saharan Africa, it's so common. It's almost like, oh, you have malaria, oh, you have the flu, or oh, you have a cold. So people aren't so alarmed by it. They aren't so, oh my gosh, freaked out or scared. But being that I was born in the United States, I have almost a mixed background. It was oh my gosh, I have malaria. I've lost already 20 pounds. It's only been, I was less than 100 pounds at the time. So like I'm losing so much weight. Like you can see my bones. It not only has like it not only takes a physical toll on your body, but also a mental toll where you feel like, you are dying. You cannot retain any nutrients in your body because not only are you throwing up everything you enter, but you're also having diarrhea, you're also malnourished, dehydrated.
Wow.
And the thing is, there's a window of time in which you can take medicine to treat the disease, malaria. And if you do not make it within that window of time, often that's when people lose their lives.
Wow.
And if there's, 400,000 people dying yearly, and every 2 minutes a child is dying from malaria, obviously it's some sort of, I personally cannot understand how people are still dying from it, considering that it is preventable, it is treatable, and it is something that's so prominent in the world. We don't see as many polio cases anymore. We should not be seeing malaria in 2020.
Wow, that's real. And I think that you brought up a really great point when you talked about it being not only preventable but also curable.
Yes.
Because we have a lot of the things in our world now that isn't the case. But there are foundations and there are groups that are working on this effort. And so now you have this amazing platform, and we're back in your stomping grounds here in Washington, D.C. So tell us a little bit about how you've been able to use your platform to bring more awareness to not only just malaria, but all these other diseases or social issues in this world.
Well, considering that social media is so prominent, ironically enough, I did not like social media. I did not want to have a social media. One of my uncles back home, he's my uncle, but he's my age, and he was just like, you need to create an Instagram. And I was just like, I don't really think it's normal for people to be posting everything that they're doing. And he was just like, just make it. So I made it, and it was like, private for almost all of its life within that time period. And then, when I got to college, I saw how invested people in the United States were into Snapchat and Twitter and Instagram, and I started to notice that I was garnering a lot of attention on these platforms. And I thought to myself one day, this term influencer is being thrown around, but really, what are you influencing? Are you influencing or trying to encourage me to just like take more selfies, or to just look beautiful all of the time, or what I'm eating, and almost like a showing off culture? And that's where I was just like, you know what, I can actually be somewhat of a bridge between two different places, two very far places. I was born in the United States, and I can relate to all of my friends that live here, but I also grew up in Senegal, and I have all of my family is Senegalese. So I can also relate back to them and almost act as if some sort of, I can make you understand these people, I can make these people understand you, and vice versa. And the distance between us no longer has to be so large. Let's use globalization differently.
Wow.
So I noticed also my demographic of people following me was not just United States. I went to Costa Rica and got a whole bunch of followers from the Latin community, and I was just like, wow, like, I'm really speaking to so many different people regardless of my religion. I'm Muslim, regardless of my ethnicity. I'm Senegalese, regardless of my sex. I'm female. Like, I'm speaking to so many people. Like, my demographic sometimes shock me myself. I'm like, wow, there's people from everywhere. And I decided to just say something important and share important things and use my influence for something. Yes, use it for something bigger than myself. And I went to school to be a doctor. I started shadowing under doctors in my country, and what happened was I noticed that the doctor was not treating all of the patients in the hospital, and there would be a line of patients outside. Considering my biology background, I could notice, or I would see certain symptoms in the people, whether it's like, malnutrition or infected limbs that need to just be amputated, etc. Or just people who even resembled having certain symptoms that I had when I had malaria. And I really sympathize with them, because when you look at someone and they look like you and they're going through something, you just feel it more.
Right.
And I asked the doctor, I was like, why aren't you treating these people? Why are we leaving? You know, there's a line of people outside.
Yeah.
Let's go help them. And he was like, you know, they don't have enough money to pay for my services. And I asked him, I was like, you have the intelligence, you have the means to help these people, and the only thing stopping you is something monetary, money.
Wow.
And he told me, you know, I cannot help them if they cannot pay for it. So I sat in my internship with the doctor crying, and I decided that even though I'm studying biology and chemistry, I do not want to be a doctor if this is the system that exists in which I cannot really help people. So slowly I started moving into global health, and just gained a passion for global health issues, from like healthcare to, which was really big because healthcare, there is not a system that exists in my country to help those people who don't have money. So that's eventually how I got into all of this. I was just like, okay, no healthcare system, but people are listening to people on Instagram and they're watching and paying attention there. The doctors can't help, so whoosh, I don't want to be a doctor anymore. Whoosh, let me use my platform to get people to like do something, because after all, we are the mass. You know, it's only a few people at the top who are making these decisions, and we outnumber them by far too many. And I think that it's really within us where the power lies, you know.
Wow, that's powerful. Man, and I like how you brought up influencing and how it can be, because influencing itself is inherently a positive thing.
Yes.
You know, you can influence people in such negative ways, and you can influence them in positive ways. It's all in how you utilize what you have.
Yes.
And so it's so inspiring to know that you're using your platform to, you know, give a voice to the voiceless and to uplift these things that, you know, are present in our world. And so do you ever have, you know, any, you know, doubts or any struggles while doing this work of yours, like as an advocate for these things? Have you had any encounters of adversity that you can share with us?
I think everyone is going to go through something. It doesn't matter the degree. We all in life have our own obstacles as a part of our own independent journeys. I am a model by trade, I guess. I'm really passionate about modeling. I love art. So oftentimes trying to find a space where I can merge the two. Yes, I'm a model and I love things that are, you know, beautiful. I love art. I love expressing myself. But I'm not someone who doesn't know, you know, what I'm talking about. So, you know, at the same time, it's really important for me to have respect in both industries and create almost a balance. And this idea that if you are a basketball player, you cannot care about, you know, polio, or you cannot care about malaria as a model, or you cannot care about, you know, whatever the situation may be. I think that the greater message is, it doesn't matter what it is that you are interested in, as long as you are passionate about it, please pursue it, because you can inspire someone. And I'm hoping that with myself being a model and philanthropist and advocate and all of these different things, it's just like I'm hoping that the youth really takes from it, and people who are younger than me take from it, that there is nothing that you cannot do. Whether you want to be a doctor and a model, it's possible. If you want to be a social advocate and a police officer, like, it doesn't matter. I'm just picking two random things, the first things that come to mind. But I really just want people to more so tap into themselves and explore all parts of themselves, because there's beauty in everything, you know. And as long as you thank you, and as long as you remain true to all of those things that are true to you, it's always going to speak and read as authentic.
Wow. Yeah, no, growing up, music runs really deep in my family, and my granddad was a musician, and you know, having that side is always going to be a part of me.
Yes.
You know, and it's something that I can always lean back on, but it's something that reminds me of sort of, you know, who I am, But there have been countless times where people have told me, you can't make a career out of that, or only 1% of people will make it, or something like that. But it's like, in that sense of a way, you sort of limit yourself. And I know that there's a lot of young people watching today who, you know, are probably thinking to themselves, I can only do one thing. If I'm going to be a doctor, I can only be a doctor. Or if I'm going to be an artist, then my gosh. But you're talking about, you know, whatever's on the inside of you, whatever that passion is, you can do them simultaneously.
All of them.
And I mean, you're the perfect example of, you know, being able to do the modeling while also still letting them know, oh, I'm not just here posing. You know, like I'm all about this. And so the UN has titled this next 10 years the Decade of Action. We are 10 years away from 2030. And so we want to know how SouKeyna is going to use this next decade to act. What are some new things that we can look forward to, or some of the things that you have goals for? Tell us a little bit about that.
So malaria is forever going to be something that I will be speaking of as something that directly has impacted my life. And I feel like, again, speaking back to what we just said, as long as you're passionate about something, it's going to read as authentic. I have noticed also just certain things within the communities that I live in, or the communities that I'm surrounded by most, whether that's African American communities or African communities. Within this next decade, a lot of my goals tie into different types of Pan-Africanism, women empowerment, this type of idea of, okay, I truly believe an obstacle to the development of African countries has been mentality and education. And when you can change the way someone thinks about something, you automatically change their approach to whatever that cause may be, and how it will naturally, you know, trickle into one thing. If African children are going to school more, that means that they have more jobs. They can actually contribute to the economy. Contributing to the economy, more money, more wealth into your own people. And I think that there's so many different things that we as Africans, whether that's from Senegal or Zimbabwe or Djibouti, you know, it doesn't matter where, we have to really tap back into ourselves and just become more nationalists. And I'm also a partner with an organization called Reach Foundation, where we are saving money to build a school in Senegal. I've been using a lot of my social media and just thinking like, hey everybody, it's Friday, let's start like a $5 Fridays or a $2 Tuesdays, and send it to my friends. So if you ever want to donate to that, please.
Yes. And I know you brought up a really great point. I was actually in a small shanty village called Kliptown in South Africa, where one of the men had he had a grant to go and study at Harvard, but instead of staying here in the U.S., he decided to go back. And in the middle of his village, he built a computer lab for the children there. And when we talked to him, we asked him, you know, what is something that you want to see more of, not only in South Africa, but across the entire continent. And he says, African issues need African solutions. And that was the first time I ever heard anything like that, because prehistorically it had always been, let's save Africa.
Let's donate to this, let's donate to that. And even with the team that exists with Reach Foundation, I see that my job as someone who's partnering with them is really, I don't want Senegal to have a reputation that we are so in need. I don't want any African country to have, or people to have this idea in their minds that, you know, we are so in need. Everyone needs help. There's issues in every country, every democracy or non-democracy, republic, etc. Everyone's going to have problems. The thing is that our problems have existed before we have become our own republics and our own democracies. So we have to reestablish ourselves as Africans and gain a sense of what that really means. And I am hoping within this next decade to, whether that is starting my own organization for young girls or just young African youth, or maybe a bridge system that links back African Americans to Africa, because there is some sort of, I'm thinking of the English word, but like a broken bridge between the two, and just tie people back into their history. I studied biology in college, and a big part of biology is evolution. And before even evolution, I was really passionate about history, and I feel like my sense of my own history has really grounded me. And it's really, people have these quotes and sayings that say, how do you know where you're going if you don't know where you come from? I think it's so true and so real. I have a good sense of, I'm Senegalese, and I have a really strong love for my country. I'm so passionate about being Senegalese and love everything that means, whether it's the good or the bad, And I think that maybe if we spark this sense of nationalism within our people, we can really start getting on the road to development, but not just development in terms of technology and advancements, but something more sustainable.
Wow. Well, we are passionate about you and all of Senegal.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I know you mentioned earlier about the Reach Foundation. And so I want the viewers to know how they can keep up with what's happening with SouKeyna, and how they can donate if they would like to the Reach Foundation. I'm sure we'll provide some links in the video below, but where can they find you?
So I have an Instagram account. It's at SouKeyna, just my name, SouKeyna. And in the bio, I have a link. You can donate there. You can also send Cash App to the $ Reach Foundation. Our goal is $40,000, and this will fund the building of the school and the tools, the trip for us to go to Senegal and make sure everything is being implemented in a way that we can all agree on. And I'm just so proud to be a part of this, because going to school even in Senegal, I saw so many things where I was just like, if this one aspect was changed about the school system, I think people would stay. And a lot of times that aspect is means, money. And we really want to do something different with building this school. We don't want to give students money. I spoke with the team earlier, and the founder, I spoke with the founder of the organization, Jerome Hawkins. He's also a fellow Howard alum.
Wow.
But I was explaining to him, like, you don't want to just put money in these people's hands. The way that African societies, and especially in Senegal, the way that the society is set up, you give money to a child, it's instinctual to give it back to your parents. And this money is not for the parents. We're trying to make sure that whatever we're putting into the youth stays in the youth, for them to build and grow into the next generation. And slowly that's how we will sustainably develop our countries, because we want longevity. We don't want to develop in 2030 and plateau there. You know, we don't want 2020, 2030 to be the peak. We want to continuously grow. We want to continuously advance, and that's where true development lies, when you're always doing better than you were doing last year.
Wow. Yeah. She's right. We don't want to see a plateau, and you guys have something to do with this decade of action, and it's to see that school built in Senegal.
Yes.
And so be sure to donate. Be sure to take action yourselves, and thank you guys for tuning in. Be sure to like this video, subscribe, and share with your friends, because you just heard from SouKeyna. Come on. Share.
You heard from all of us. I'm so excited.
Yes.
Thank you guys so much for having me.
Thank you for coming on. This has been really great.
Yes.
Woo!